Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Own Your Choices, Own Your Life. And today I have a very, very special guest on who I'm thrilled to have on the call today. And it is Jenna Goodhand. And Jenna and I met last February when I was decided to take my life coaching certification in London. And that was a very pivotal weekend for me because during then I connected with a number of people, felt like I really stepped into some clarity on who I was here to serve, who I wanted to work with, gained some confidence, and had a lot of fun. And we have stayed very connected since then. So I really admire Jenna, and she has done a lot of work with me that has helped me to move forward. So I'm going to give you, before we just jump in, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background bio on her. Jenna is a master coach trainer with the Certified Coaches Federation. She has her own coaching practice where she loves to work with very highly ambitious people. And Jenna's words and mine, I 100% agree, is she really helps people to get their shit together, because really, who doesn't need to get their shit together? And she does a lot of public speaking, workshops. Basically, honestly, she has a ton of energy and she brings that to her clients, but she's not afraid to deal with the things that need to be dealt with. So as a client, I also know that sometimes we really have to hear what we need to work on and in order to take that next step forward. And she is awesome at it. So I am thrilled to have you with me today, Jenna.
Oh, Marcia, thank you so much. It's such a privilege to be here. And I'm so proud of you as one of my students. Sometimes I look at the things you're doing and I'm thinking, how did she pass me already? So it's such a gift to be here on your show. And I always love talking to you and really look forward to what comes out of today.
Oh, me too. Me too. We've already, for anybody who's just tuned in, we finally decided to hit record since we've been carrying on a conversation for a while. So Jenna has had, I just love your story, your background, and honestly, however deep we go into this is entirely up to you. The whole concept of our show is own your choices, own your life, because I really believe that when we own our decisions and our choices that take us to this point in our life, then we can truly decide if we want something different or if we want to stay the same. And it's never about looking at it in, begrudging our past and being angry for changes or choices that we've made, but it's just about owning them and saying, yep, I did that. So this is what can I do now to create this? So we're going to kind of go into it a little bit later. First, tell us a little bit about what you are doing now. What is it that you are involved in now?
So I guess part of the reason I work with people on getting their shit together is because I'm constantly in that process. I am very ambitious. As we'll get into sort of my previous life, I felt very behind on things. So when I finally felt like I had caught up, I'd been on this very fast-paced momentum of getting ahead to where I thought people my age should be, or at that stage of my life, and that kind of just kept going. So I'm always coming up with business ideas, project ideas, and for me, staying focused has been a challenge. But some of the key things that have really become a part of my life is coaching, for sure. So, I have my own private coaching practice, but I love just spreading the value of coaching through everything that I do. So I also help people make dietary choices that support their beliefs and values. I help people who are small business owners through a co-working community center that I run. And then, it's pretty hard to have a conversation with me without me analyzing your thoughts and beliefs and trying to help you maybe tweak those a little bit to help you move forward. So, you know what, it's funny, this morning, I posted to Facebook that I feel so blessed. I could not stop crying this morning. It was funny. I was looking for some new people to bring on board at this one business of mine, and I was getting these applications, and I had asked people to send in videos, and here I was at work, and I was watching these videos, and I was just weeping as I was realizing how much these people want to be a part of something I created. And to look back at my life years ago, since a very small age, I've always wanted to make a difference in this world and show people how great life can be, and then life happens. And then now I'm in that spot where I can nurture that in other people. And I just feel so blessed that through the struggles of life, I made those choices, right? I could have chosen to be like, this is hard, this is too much, I can't take this. Or I could have decided in the moment, I'm going to make the best of this. So that I love the concept of this show, because I see it in my own life, that there's roads where there was very tempting ways to go. And instead I went other ways, and then I get to see it in other people's lives all the time. So it's a very rewarding gift to be a part of people's growth. I really don't think that there's for me, that's the most rewarding thing, to be a part of someone's, even if it's like an aha moment.
I was just about to call it the aha moment, that when you can help somebody to see something just a little bit differently, and then they stop and they're like, oh, I get it. And you've kind of just helped facilitate to get them there.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful to be able to watch people grow, like outside of, like, watching them and seeing where they've been and where they're going. I don't know what your question was, but
it's all good. It's all good. My question was where you are right now and what you love what you're doing.
I feel great.
You feel great. Perfect. Well, isn't that good? That's awesome. So on that note, and talking about owning, right, your choices and owning your life and what you where you've come from, obviously this is probably not where you always were.
Yeah. So it's interesting because you and I actually have spoken at Mo Mondays twice.
Once together. Yep.
And so in my Mo Monday talk, I talk about how when I was a kid, I was the person I am today. So I generally look at things with a positive attitude. I look at how to make the most of things. But early on in life, and these things happen for who knows how long. I was very depressed at a very young age. So it was challenging because I was, 13, 14, when I first started, thinking about suicide. I was cutting myself. I, would spend days just in my room crying, writing, hate letters to myself. But at that age, I didn't have friends who I could talk to about that. And I didn't understand it myself. And my parents probably did not think that would be happening to someone that young. So I spent 3 or 4 years mostly like that. So I got very good at wearing that mask of, everything's great, and I could go out and I could party like anybody else, and everyone thought I was a happy
life of the party.
Totally. But then behind closed doors, it was just, how do I end? Like, I cannot take this pain. And the interesting thing I've learned over time with people who suffer from depression, you don't always know why, right? And you have to kind of come to terms with, just because you don't know the reason why you feel a certain way does not mean that you have to stay with it until you find the answer, right?
Wow. No, that is just, sorry. I want to just, you can repeat that again, because that was such a good nugget for people. They're always looking for the reason why. They're always looking for like, how can I fix this, or what's going on? Yeah.
We are so fixated on the why.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes the why is helpful because it reminds us why we're driven to do something.
Yeah.
But when we're stuck and we have decided, I can't move forward until I know why, sometimes the answers will not come until you've moved forward. Gives me goosebumps. Like that just totally gave me goosebumps, because had I not moved forward, I never would have been able to be outside of the situation. And for people who've been depressed, you're so clouded, right? Like,
it is gray.
Even just being stressed out. Like when you're stressed out, you're full of cortisol, and that blocks your ability to think outside of you're just kind of in preservation mode, right?
Right.
So what had happened to me was I had tried counseling. I tried different medications. I tried, hurt myself, and I went to the hospital, and I tried support groups and stuff. And I remember I had gone to, it was some sort of like crisis center, and it was closed that day. And I had taken this as a sign, as, I'm not meant to move forward. All these things keep telling me that, what's the point of this, right? And so I left, and for the first time I was angry, and I hadn't had anger. I had just had despair. And so I remember I was walking down the street, and I really do remember it as though this is what happened. I can't I can't go back to know, but I really think I screamed out loud, like if no one is going to help me, I'm going to have to help myself. And in that moment, it was like, yeah, that's
light bulb. I get it. Yeah.
Nobody's helping you because you're expecting someone else to do the work. And I was 15, 16, 17. I'm not quite sure. So the gift of having that realization that early in my life is one of the most valuable things that's ever happened to me, because it allowed me to remember that moment. That was the value, to remember it, because every time life happens to you, and life will always happen to you,
always,
I can go back to, I own this. No one else is going to help me, right? No. And the really cool thing is we all have these stories, and oftentimes when we hear someone else's, we think, I could never do that, or I don't know how you got through that. But the truth is we are equipped with everything we need to get through something. And lucky for me, I recognized what that was, which was, I'm responsible. So things have happened, right? Like I'm a single mother, and I was in a pretty unhealthy relationship on and off for 10 years with my son's father. And I had, reclaimed my life, and I'd caught up. I was a high school dropout. I graduated high school, went on to university. Everyone there thought I was just totally clean cut. Like if I even said shit, they'd be like, oh, right? And so I got on with my life, and I was living in Europe, and everything was really great. And I got back with my son's father, and I got pregnant, and I moved home to Canada. Things fell apart with us. My son was born 3 months early. He was in the hospital for 3 months. I was living in a Ronald McDonald house. All these things that, if a best friend had gone through that, I would just be aching for her.
Yes.
But I had gone through so much already in different periods of my life that it was just you know what, this is just going to be one of those things. And I really do think that perspective is the most valuable thing that we have.
I was going to say, what do you think of perspective? Was honestly my next question was, what do you think of perspective? Yeah.
Because that's everything. Our entire experience is what we see. Right now, in this moment, I could be like, I don't think Marsha's really into me. She's probably playing on her phone. I think terrible things right now. Maybe she's judging my hair or my eyes.
No, I was writing your note down because
or I could be like, oh, we're having a great conversation right now, and we're really so. The crazy thing is it's our head is everything, and so I have this saying that nothing is real, because nothing is real. Everything that is our own creation entirely.
Wow.
You say to me, Jenna, I hate that red dress you're wearing. And I could take offense to it, except I'm not wearing a red dress, right?
Right.
So if someone says a fact that we can analyze as truth or false, that's true or false, I'm not going to take offense to it. But if someone says something to us oh, you try your best, but you never really do make the most of your life, right? We take those things as though they're facts, and we do it to ourselves too. So I really do kind of try my best to just none of this is real. This is all just fun and games, and the things that we worry about, most of them don't happen, first of all. No. And second of all, they're not that big of a deal. What is the worst thing that could happen? We worry about, conversations we have to have with people. We worry about if something's going to follow through. And in the end, though, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you have the perspective that you will find your way no matter what gets thrown at you, then you have the freedom to actually live, right? We are designed, unfortunately, to avoid danger, right?
Yeah, be safe.
To be safe.
Whatever safe is, whatever we think safe is. Yeah.
But it's not as important today when we have, come so far as a species. I mean, some would argue we haven't come very far. We've actually gone the wrong direction. But you know, we don't have to worry about a cougar in the jungle jumping out of us. So I can't remember the woman's name, but she talks about the 5-second rule, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's Mel Robbins. It's a great book. It's a great book. Yes.
Yeah. So acting, instead of recognizing the fear I have is only there to keep me safe. Is this actually a threatening situation? No, then jump in.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, so my depression, and I even feel weird saying that word because I feel like
it's a label.
It's a label,
mm-hmm.
and it's also I mean, this is the thing. Once you've had a certain set of thoughts, you may have stronger thoughts that have replaced them, but those thoughts are still there. Yeah. So a really interesting thing, in university, I had a column in a paper, and the idea was that every week I would do this challenge that would bring attention to something that I thought was important. So like one week I was like, oh, let's talk about water conservation. And I like lived off the water of what someone in sub-Saharan Africa would have. So I like didn't flush the toilets. I like, washed out of a bucket. I did all these sorts of things. Right? One week I was bringing attention to mental health.
Yeah.
Mental illness. And it was called like 1 in 4. And for the week, it was crazy because like in retrospect, it was very dangerous. But what I did is I put myself in the mindset of someone who was depressed and suicidal. And I told my roommates, I lived in a house of 7 girls. I told them all to ignore me as though I didn't exist. I told my boyfriend to not talk to me. And I walked around the world imagining people didn't love me, didn't care about me, that all I thought was negative thoughts. And in 2 days, I was like back where I had been years before.
And you recognize those feelings that you were back in that mindset of years ago.
Yeah. If you think about how much your life sucks, how nobody cares about you, how you're never going to be anything, that's how you feel. That's how you exist in this world. And it's so powerful. And the difference was so stark to me that I realized that is still in me, but it's also in anybody. Right?
Yep.
It's so fascinating because if people could just recognize, and I know there's a lot of people who will hear this right now and say, you don't know me.
She doesn't get it.
She doesn't get it.
Yeah.
She's just one of the lucky people. I'm sorry. I don't want to seem insensitive. I've been around enough people who have depression. I've been in my own experience of depression, not someone else's, but it is all your perspective and your mindset. Mm-hmm. And studies have shown that, around the chemical imbalances, that is very rare. It's very rare that people actually have a chemical imbalance that causes depression. Because even people who have chemical imbalances, if they're taught how to think the right thoughts, they can still live the life that supports them. So, drug companies, they want to make it feel as though one solution. And there's actually, I was reading something the other day about, these drugs that support serotonin boost. And yes, serotonin, results in feelings, but they can't even really test your serotonin levels. So they're giving us serotonin, but they can't actually test whether our serotonin levels are
off or different.
Yeah. So yeah, mindset, perspective.
Yeah. It's interesting because that obviously can be a big can of worms, and I'm sure no matter what I do and talk about,
it's racing. My heart's like, oh my God, there's going to be people who hate me now.
No, it's going to be like, people, there will always be people who disagree.
Yeah.
And this is not saying here, there, or neither, or what. I can say that I just from a family physician and a friend of ours who had said, she said in her 25 years of practice, she has never seen this amount of teens looking for medication for depression. Never. She goes, I've never seen it. It's not to this level that they're asking all the time. She was not saying they're not. I'm not commenting on it. I'm just saying just on volume and of where they are at. And she says, I just feel this conversation could go a totally different way, but that we're not giving them skills for how to deal with things are wrong. We're not letting them fall when things don't go perfectly. We're not letting them learn how to pick themselves back up again. We're not letting them have mistakes. We're not letting them have consequences because we're trying to control and micromanage every decision that they make.
Yeah.
So they aren't learning things along the way. And it's, again, not saying that it's not real by any, I'm not saying that at all, but it was just an observation, and we had quite the conversation. And she just said, I'm not really sure what to do with this in my head, because it is bombarding our whole practice right now.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of this? Like recently, I don't know if it was like a status or something. Someone said something about, why are we so adamant that our children are not allowed to be upset? Right? Like,
Right.
whenever a child gets upset, we're like, don't be upset. Like, we do everything like to not let them be upset. But I think that is, just imagine growing up thinking as though like being upset is wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
It's
I think
not
even
wrong.
like it's not wrong. And I think,
No.
a lot of times we struggle with just putting on a happy face and imagining like and just acting like everything's fine. But
Yeah.
we need to cry. We need to let it out. It's not unhealthy. And I think like maybe this younger generation without the skills, who are also being told, don't be sad, don't cry,
Don't show your emotions.
yeah, or
Don't
even like
do.
letting kids be bored. Like, just children do not need to be entertained, pampered, made to be ecstatic in every moment, right? Like, it's not healthy to be ecstatic in every moment. Like,
It's not real. It's not real, because it's like, it's not real. You're setting them up for something that's just not real.
yeah.
I mean, regardless of what you do, at one point I said to, most people know my story, but I remember saying to my son, like, if I helped you to believe that it was all easy, happy, and no problem, then I said, honestly, shame on me. Cause I that was not the message I wanted to give you. If that's what I did, I apologize, because it's not. And I'm not negative. Everybody knows me, knows I'm not a negative person, but I'm very realistic.
Yes.
And you know what? We all have bad days, and we all have moments where we have those times. And I remember when he was younger and saying, it's okay that you have a bad day, but if you feel like screaming at the world, why don't you go to your room and have some quiet time and just have some downtime till you feel like it's okay to be upset. Like, kids, we all have bad days, but we can't tell them that that's not possible, because then they don't even sure how to feel half the time.
Yeah.
Oh, that could be that's a workshop on its own, Jenna. So if you could look back, was there one point in time, would that be the point where you felt like it was your responsibility? Was that like a real turning point for your life, continued from then? Like, is that really the main?
It did. Like, it's sort of, I think putting that into practice, because it's one thing to think something, it's another to actually put it into action. So
Absolutely.
For me, it was recognizing, okay, I have to do this. But then again, not having the skills. For me, I remember like my first thing was like, okay, like, let's just get out of bed every day. Like, you don't have to get dressed. You don't have to go to school. I was like, my parents, they were very, they were hands off about the process for me. So they weren't like, you have to go to school. Like, they just kind of were, good or bad, they let me figure this out myself. And it's a very strong, independent person. So it was kind of like, get out of bed every day. You don't have to leave the house or get dressed, but just get out of bed. Right. So that became the first thing I did. Shortly after that, I started volunteering. So I would, I was skipping school to go hang out with old people. And what I took from that, which is so valuable to people that I try to encourage them to do, when you realize that you and yourself is enough to make someone happy, it changes your confidence, your purpose for being here.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a great point.
Yeah. For much of history, we have just been trying to survive, right? Just like every other animal out there in the jungle, like we, shelter, food. And unfortunately, there's still a lot of people that live that way. In North America, we are looking for purpose because we don't have it anymore, right? We have our needs met and we're privileged to the max. And so what are we doing here, right? We're trying to figure out why are we here? And so I think a lot of times people's depression around their self-worth comes from not feeling valued. So for me, when I started to hang out with these, elderly people, and just, I didn't even have to talk. I just sat there and they talked to me and I listened, and I might hug them or, push them down to their hair appointment or whatever.
Aww, that's awesome.
I started to feel value. And I remember I had tried to go back to high school a couple times, and I had a lot of anxiety around all sorts of things. And so I had panic attacks a lot. So this nursing home that I volunteered with, it was like the one place where I felt really like at ease and calm and unthreatened. And it was probably like, it probably took 3 or 4 years for me and a number of different attempts to graduate high school, because I tried different methods. And eventually I realized that I wasn't going to make a difference in the world without a high school diploma. And I don't believe that to be true now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think that sounds like something you believe now.
Yeah. But at the time I felt like, how am I going to, because I wanted to work for the UN. I was like, how am I going to work for the UN if I don't have my high school? So, I went to an adult education center and eventually went on to university. And I think for me, part of the piece was also something that I've become really passionate about. And that's being really yourself. Like, I think that a lot of us think we are, but if you look at how you are with different people and you're different to those different people, then you're not yourself all the time. And the gift for me in going to a different city and a different university was I could kind of just show up as who I really was and not be stuck in who everyone treated me as before, someone who partied, smoked, drank, did drugs, all those sort of things, right?
Yeah.
I could just be me, and I could just love life, and no one was like, why are you loving life? Like, that's not like you, right?
That's weird. What are you doing? Yeah.
So I think, owning the fact that you are in control, taking it further than just perspective into action, right? Like you can think for the rest of your life, and if you don't do something, you're never going to get there. And then really, really being honest with who you are. And that's not easy. I'm not saying like,
no, it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. It's hard.
Yeah. I still struggle with it. Like, but I think that the more that you are that person, the more free you feel. And ultimately freedom is what we're it's funny. We're seeking freedom and security at the same time. So one thing that makes us feel, safe and like this, but then at the other angle, we're also trying to feel as though nothing's holding us back or holding us down. And we hear it all the time. I'm going to say it for the millionth time for most people. Like, this is, as far as we know, this is our one life. This is our one life as we are who we are today. Right.
Agreed.
And that will apply to most people who believe that. So do whatever. Like, don't hold out on anything. Don't, I don't know. It's such a sad thing to see people in their 60s and 70s who, worked their whole life, and now they're retired and they have the money, but they don't have the body, right? Like they don't have the health. They don't have the health. No. Yeah. And they've also, it's hard to start a dream to do something when you're that age, right? And I mean, they come from a different generation as well, but people, around the age of 25 are locked into a set of beliefs, a set of perspectives on the way that their life's going to be, and they commit to it, and they're afraid to go off that track.
Well, then subconsciously, like every decision they make falls in line with those beliefs. They don't realize it, but they are continually choosing things that fall in line with those beliefs.
Yeah. And I think the biggest disservice that we do to one another is that we keep each other on in that line, right? So, our partners, people we spend time with the most, our best friends, our family, when we hear them going off of their track, we kind of bring them back onto it, because, we want security for them, we want security for ourselves. And I think one thing we could do for each other is to just, like, if someone says they want to do something that seems crazy to us, let them have at her.
Well, exactly. How do you not know that, like, that's really where their skills are? Or how do you not know that that's exactly why they're here? Like, that's actually what their purpose is. And I don't know. It's just this, and it's tough because I do believe that we spend an inordinate amount of time and energy trying to control things we have zero control on. Zero. Like, absolutely not now, not ever will have any control on them, ever. Yeah. We spend all that time. We don't spend any of that time and energy on controlling what we can control, which is us.
Yeah.
And focusing on, like, what makes us happy, and what do we want to do, and what do we want to follow, and where can we make a difference? And we don't spend that time and energy there. And I think that is just, it's really, really sad, and it's bizarre. Now, I mean, I've been victim, and I've done this. I can completely, don't say it with any judgment. And that, I spent years trying to control my kids' life and what they were doing, trying to fix it, trying to get it better. And finally it's like, okay, you know what? This is enough, because it's not my choice anymore.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you two things: how much life changed for all of us when I started to think that way. And because, and how much it changed in sense for them, because it was that, but that is your choice. You don't like how it's turning out, make a different one. Like, just make a different one. It's okay. Make a different one. Right? We all can make mistakes, but putting that energy in places that we can't do anything with, it's just such a waste of time and energy. Huge waste.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't.
What you said about, like, make a choice, and if you don't like one, pick another one, and
Make a different one.
Pick a choice. You're graduating high school. Okay, pick a choice for university, and like that's now what you're going to be. And then they're afraid to ever make a choice again because maybe that choice didn't work out well, but they don't want to make another mistake and waste time. But you know what? Like, this is like, life is short, but it's also the longest thing we do. There's nothing longer than life, right?
No.
We'll not experience anything longer than life, and you can, maybe something takes 3 or 4 years to change tracks, but if that's an opportunity for you to learn and grow and become something, that you might love, then why would you not do that other than fear, right?
Yes. And we've got this timeline of what has to happen by when. Yeah. Right? Like, by this age, my kids should be in university. They should be doing this. They should be doing this. By this age, they should have their job. By this age, they should have their kids, married, house, whatever. It's this whole laid out plan. And I mean, it did work like that for a number of years, but at the same time, I don't think we need to make those decisions to fit in timelines. That means if we're unhappy, we're miserable. Yeah. I just don't think I think it's kind of silly, to be honest. Yeah, that's definitely. So you can see how much a shift in mindset that you went to, and now you can see, I'm sure you can see how it's impacted you in a lot of ways. Now you're a mom. So how does this difference in mindset, how does that translate into being a mom of, is he 5?
He's 5, yeah.
He's 5.
So, I really believe in I feel like women, more than men, struggle with being honest about parenthood. Because we're afraid that we will be judged. And I'm already getting scared about where I'm going with this.
It's okay. You can go. I'm really actually hoping you go one way. I really do. You go ahead. I'm going to let you go.
There are some people, I believe, who love everything to do with being a mom. I don't believe that. But I do think that there's some people who love it more than others. I don't love being a mom. I love my son. I fucking love him. Like, I would do anything for him. I have so much fun with him. The other day I picked up my phone to text him while he was at school, and he's 5 and he doesn't have a phone. But I was going to be like, oh, I can't wait to see you later, because we're just so in love right now. Yeah. But I don't like being responsible for someone else. I don't like telling someone what to do. I can't stand my naggy mom voice. I don't like the pressure of raising a human being. I like quiet. I don't like mess. Like, there's so many things that come along with being a mom where I'm like, this sucks. I don't like this. And if I wasn't able to change so I never grew up as someone who, wanted to get married and have kids. I'm really glad I have my son. But that was not part of my grand plan, although I'm grateful that it
of course
happened. So I've struggled a lot with, you took my life from me. I had a great, not him, I would never say that. No. But thinking I had a great life, and now I'm stuck in this city, in the same spot, and I'm never going to get that person back again. And the truth is I've come to terms with it. I will never have the life I did before my son. No. Right? Once you have a child.
No, absolutely.
It becomes, the focus is to raise a human that doesn't make the world a worse off place, right? And someone who's happy and that sort of thing. So, the perspective that I struggle with is that it's constantly changing. Like, a little person, so for an adult to change their behavior and their habits takes a long time. A child is it's like a week turns around and they're a different person. So it's constantly reassessing and being okay with this person that you think you got a thing going with and you know how it works is going to change on you. And so now I actually have an appreciation for anyone who's ever dated me,
because that's you. Is it?
Go
ahead.
I'm a switch. Like I'm this way,
Yeah.
that way. I'm doing this now. I'm doing this now. I love you. I'm over this. Like, and so now I have this I have a person in my life who's teaching me how, unstable that can feel for other people. So I'm recognizing my own stuff. But also my son is very, he is an old soul. Like he will
Mm-hmm.
say things to me like, "Mommy, don't rush me." Like he's always trying to. He's very slow, which I've learned to take as a gift. Um,
Can I mention the whole bee video? Seriously, that was freaking adorable. It was adorable, right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So he's, it's interesting because the other thing is that when you have a little person, and people say this, like every cliche that people say about being a parent is comes so true. Like it happens so fast, and kids mirror what they see, and it's really interesting to see when they have attitude, when they do things that you don't like them to do,
Mm-hmm.
you realize that it's you. Right? Like a lot of times the behavior and especially because I'm his sole provider,
Right.
he's not that stuff that he's mimicking, or that the attitude he has, or the way he responds to things he doesn't like, he's picking that up from me.
Mm-hmm.
So who was it? Oh, I was somewhere the other day with a friend who had a little girl and she was having a tantrum, and my friend was like, "Okay, you just have your tantrum." And Beckett was like, "It's really loud." That's my son's name. And I was like, "Yeah, but like mommy has tantrums." And he was like, "Yeah." And then I think he said something like, I stomp up the stairs. Like when I'm upset, I'm an adult, I will stomp up the stairs because I was never given permission to have tantrums as a child. So
you're using them now. You're doing them now. Yeah.
So my child has brought out the child in me that I have not resolved.
It's hilarious.
And I think one thing I would like to not put so much pressure on him about is his attitude. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think because of the way I look at the world, I do struggle with just letting him have bad days. I struggle with letting him be frustrated. I struggle with letting him be negative. Because and so sometimes I'll say things and I'm like, I don't like that I said that to him. Like he'll say something like, "This is gonna suck," or "This is gonna be terrible," and I'll be like, like I'll say things like, "Don't talk like that," or like, "No one's gonna want to be around you if you talk like that." And then I hear myself say that, I'm like, that's terrible. Like because I would, like we don't have to be perfect all the time, and people are not going to abandon you if you're upset. So I think just as a coach, you will have clients that push parts of yourself that you have to grow in, and all of a sudden in a session you'll start feeling like you'll almost like zone out of what they're saying and be like, "Oh man, I feel that way," and you'll start to think about like, okay, how do I help this person when I haven't dealt with my bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my son for me has like really allowed me to see more of the bullshit that I would not have seen in any other way, right?
What a really, really good perspective. And I've said mine have been my biggest teachers. They've been my biggest teachers. Love them dearly. They've been my biggest challenge, my biggest teachers. Yeah. And I absolutely love that you said that in the beginning when you're talking about about having kids. And when I had, mine were only 14 months apart. So, and my first one was very colicky. I broke my tailbone. I got infected. I could barely move for anything.
Wow.
So anyways, I mean, it wasn't pleasant. Let's just put it this way. It was not a pleasant experience. And I remember I had a few friends who had kids at that time, and all they did was talk about how amazing it was and how wonderful it was. I'm thinking, what is wrong with me? Like, this is not amazing. Like, there's nothing amazing about this. Like, I honestly, for a long time, I actually went through a really scary postpartum time.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel how everyone talked. And the books, like I remember throwing out the book because I'm like, I don't feel like this at all. And in that point in time, right, 20 years ago, nobody talked about postpartum or anything there. And if you did, like there's something wrong with you because you're a mom. You should, love your kids. And I loved my kids, but I hated what was going on in me at that time. I just could not make sense of a lot of it. And I remember after having my second, so my oldest was just walking the week before I had my youngest. So baby. And I remember one day, like my husband did a lot of traveling. So he was gone I think we got home with my youngest and he was like 2 days old and he goes, "I'm sorry, I have to go on a work trip for 10 days." And I'm like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. Like, this is just, so I remember sitting on the stairs crying, going, I can't, this is just not what I thought my life was going to be. Like, this is this, but petrified to say anything because everyone around me was like, this is amazing. And I was just so I think it's okay to say, like, to be real. And that's what I love about you. I love that. But that I just think being real, because it's okay for moms to know that it's like, it is the hardest job you're going to do. It is the hardest job you're going to do. So if you have the hardest job you're ever going to do you think you're going to have a bad day doing it? Probably. Yeah. Probably, because it's the hardest job you're ever going to do. So it's okay to talk like that, and I think. And you know what, just to be, mom's having a bad day too. Yeah. Mom's having a bad day too. And it's okay. You know, so I think that it's interesting how you can take all those lessons that you've learned yourself, and you're taking that into parenting, right? And how that is affecting him as well.
Yeah. It's you know what, I think that topic of women talking about themselves separate from being a mother and the challenges you go through when your whole life's changing, because you know, for a lot of our mothers, you know, they kind of expected I'll be a stay-at-home mom, and they didn't have an outside job before they became a mom.
Right.
So when you have a life that you're focusing on, you know, your career and growing who you are and your network and such, and then you have a baby and it kind of stops you. It's not that you don't love your child. It's that you are struggling with a shift in your identity.
Your identity. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember, and even just, you know, not talking about postpartum, I love when people say stuff like you know what, I think a lot of parents would admit to saying to their partner or to their best friend, like, I wanted to punch my kid in the face, right? But most people will not say that, because people are gonna be like, oh my gosh, like, that person's gonna punch. Like, no one's gonna punch your child. You're not gonna punch your child in the face.
No.
But there's nothing wrong with someone bothering you and wanting to, you know, flick them away, right? So I remember even my mom, I suffered a lot with postpartum because so much was going on at the time. Yeah. And I remember saying to her that, you know, I was worried that if I didn't leave his dad, that I would kill his dad, I would kill myself, and I would like jump off something with my son. And I really felt that way. I felt like if something didn't change, I was going to go insane. Yeah. And she said, don't ever say that. You don't mean that. And I said, yes, I do. I do mean that. Do not silence this. Like, this is
this is real. Those are real feelings. Like, those are real feelings. And I mean, of course, nobody wants to, I'm sure no one wants to hear that, but they are real feelings. And there have been cases of women going to the doctors, going and saying, like, I think I'm going to hurt my child. I'm just not okay. Yeah. And it's really only been, I would think, in the last, 5 to 10 years tops, that you hear people actually talking about challenges of it.
It's really important that keeping those things inside of you is torture, first of all, but you cannot get the resources and the support you need if you don't feel like you can tell people, right?
No.
And honestly, like, one of the things I love about women is our ability to, because we can share our feelings a lot easier than men in some ways, we're able to connect on things, right? We feel less alone because we're able to share our deepest darkest.
Yes.
And then in that, we feel like, okay, I'm not alone, right? Like, I have this, like, one of my best friends, she's a single mom too, and we are, like, you know, when crazy shit happens, we like
text. You have to have someone to go to. You have to. Absolutely.
Someone who gets you. And and I think that's the value that comes from sharing what's going on. So even like your podcast, it's such a great opportunity for other people to hear from your guests on, oh, that was me, or that is me, and okay, I'm not alone.
Well, and it's funny because even as you're talking about, you know, as these facts of raising your son and what that's like and how it feels in those low moments, I was just thinking that was one of the reasons why I started to speak up, because for the longest time, I just kept thinking there was something wrong with me. Like, there's something wrong with me. I can't fix this. Like, why can't I fix this? Why can't I change this? Why can't I do this? And what are they thinking about me? What are they thinking about me? All those things. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's funny because all the time that I would spend fearing what people would say, do, or what they would think, I was wrong on like 100% of the time, like almost 100% of the time I was wrong. Everybody has been more than wonderful. They've been great. And you know what? And I'm at a point right now where if they're not, whatever, like I just say whatever.
Yeah.
I don't. And it's so funny. And people say, how do you get to that point? I'm like, you know what? It just doesn't happen overnight. Yeah. But you get to the point where you're so comfortable and solid in your own feet that, you know what? I know, did I make mistakes? Yeah, but I truly did the best that I could.
Yeah.
And so when somebody would say something and I'd be like, okay, I'm pretty sure you haven't walked any of my shoes. Like, you have no idea what we've lived in, day out. And you could see the blank look in their face. I'm like, you know what? Forget it. Like, why am I going to waste my air and energy? Because it's not something, I'm not being negative. It's just that I don't value their opinion, and it doesn't impact my life. So let it go. Like, just let it go. Yeah. But I just think that there's this thing that if we can be more open and honest with all of our struggles, that we can help to show people that what is possible. And you know what? I did get through, and this is what I am creating now, and this is what I am helping now. And I just think it's beautiful because we're talking about the shit no one wants to talk about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah. So you are obviously, I think you can, one word that is always spoken to me is gifts, right? Is that we have gifts in our adversities. And I've said it on a previous podcast, but my definition of, there's gifts of a number of natures, but we have gifts in our adversities that we don't tend to see until we're ready because we just avoid dealing with it. We don't want to get into the muck and have to deal with it. So taking a look at the walks that you've walked, what do you see different gifts in your adversities?
I think, you know what, something that I don't know if I've ever really spoken to this, but I've realized a lot recently is, it might make me emotional actually. I feel like I've had a lot of situations in my life where I'm alone. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my fears in my life stem from, but I'll be alone, or I'm trying to think, like it's, my parents are wonderful people, but we're not the same. And the type of person I am, I need a lot of emotional and physical comfort.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, a lot of who they are comes from who their parents were.
Of course.
So I've always I grew up feeling alone. Like no one really loved me. No one cared about me. I had no value. And then as a result, had a lot of relationships where I was constantly alone. So I remember, writing this little poetry thing about an ex-boyfriend, about how, you know, he really taught me how to be alone. And what I've done recently is, instead of shifting it from being alone, like I'm not alone, because there you are, and there's all these people around me.
Right.
But it's taught me I've learned how to be very independent. So, I struggle with sharing my challenges with people while I'm going through them. I'm very good at being like, oh, these are the things I went through.
Oh, what a great point. It's a great point. Yep.
But I'm not very good at being like, okay, here is my current struggle. I need help. Mm-hmm. So your question about gifts, I think, you know, the gift of feeling alone has taught me that I have myself. So I remember this moment very clearly when I left my undergrad, and I took all of my belongings, I put them on the front lawn, and I just sold them off. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I was standing in my bedroom, and I remember just putting my hands on my chest and being like, wherever we go, we'll be there together. So I have a very strong sense of self and self-love. I truly do love myself. I'm very gifted in that, I once had that talk that was like, what's your purpose?
Yeah.
But the nicest voice in my head is my own now. And that is a really big
powerful
gift. I remember a partner of mine, we were doing this questionnaire about, you know, our perfect day. Mm-hmm. And he described his, and it was, you know, like us doing all these things together. And then when I described mine, he was like, your perfect day would be alone. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, I don't know. I love hanging out with myself. So it's given me this sense of stability, in that it doesn't matter what anyone's doing to me outside of me, because I'm okay in me. So the gift of kind of feeling that sense of like not belonging has translated into a way where I can truly love myself. And then that's a gift that I give other people,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Like, oh, you do. You definitely do. Yes.
Yeah. Like I'm able to allow people to feel comfortable in their weird and wackiness and who they are as a person, because like, I'm so full of flaws, and I love that. Like
Mm-hmm.
and so if I can help other people love, their crooked smile or their weird way of talking or whatever it is that makes them them, that's it. I'm good. That's, and I had this text the other day from a coworker, and she said, you make me realize how that life can be really fun. And that was the greatest compliment I've ever received, because that's it. This, again, I'll just end on this if you want.
It's okay.
This is not real. Like, none of this is real. Like,
Yeah.
you decide every day if you want to, bark like a dog through your day, if you want to talk with a accent, like, what difference is it going to make?
Right. And you know what? I think that I can say that most of us don't make time for fun. It doesn't flow in our life by any means, and we have to physically make time. And I mean, my coworkers are going to laugh right now, but we had an event where it was a client's birthday, and we were all going to go. And so the night before, and I just think to my husband, I'm like, so do you want to have everyone here before tomorrow night over? And you can see his face was like, oh. Okay, like, are we sure? Like, we got it. And you know what? I just decided that we were going to have this thing where it was a beautiful night at our house. And I sent out a message to everybody. I'm like, do you want to come for dinner? Come at 6:30. Here's the menu where we're getting takeout from. Yeah. Put your order in, because it's going to be delivered here. And we're just going to have a couple drinks before we go. And that's how we did. So we ended up with like 20 people in short. And it was so, because fun has gone by the wayside. That is something I'm consciously trying to put back in.
Yeah.
And one of my friends said to me, she goes, you know what I love is that you didn't go to all these measures to, like, bring in the food, do this, do that. It was like, you just went, if you want to come, this is where you order from, and it's being delivered and picked up, and we'll see you then. And you know what? It's just, she goes, I wouldn't have even thought of that. I'm like, it's just, I wanted to have fun. I didn't want to spend the day I just wanted to have fun. And it was so much fun to just have fun. And it was pretty much spontaneous. We ended up organizing the whole thing last minute. And I was like, you know what? When I do that, I realize the value of fun and how important it is.
Yeah.
And I have some good friends who remind me on a regular basis that fun is good. Fun is good. And it's important, right? Yeah.
And I think sometimes we think like fun means like we have to go on some vacation somewhere or Friday night. Like, you can make the moment fun. Like, I'm having fun with you.
Oh, right? I'm having a blast. I don't know what our listeners are. We're having a blast. I'm kidding.
I think that fun, like, we, because of the way that, like, lifestyle is marketed to us, like, you have a lifestyle like this, then you're happy. But, like, I can tell you, maybe I shouldn't. Okay, I was going to say something about my neighbors, but I'm not going to anymore because I might see this at some point. There's some people in my neighborhood, and I can see down into their life, and I can see that they've got all the things that they're supposed to have. They have the pool, they have the beautiful furniture that goes with it, they have the the clothes and the gadgets and all these things. But, like, I can hear that they're not having fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's stuff is just stuff.
It's just stuff.
The relationships that we have with people and being our authentic self, like, that's where fun stems from. And I think, ultimately it comes back to that perspective and owning who we are that allows us the freedom to have fun. Fun is, you have to have a sense of looseness and freeness to have fun. Otherwise you're just contained and anxious and worried.
Mm-hmm. And I think and for some people who are like, maybe, oh God, it's been forever since I've had fun. You almost have to just purposely make a point of it, and you learn how to do it again, and you learn, because I stayed sheltered for a very long time. So having fun was just very strange it was very foreign, but every time I do it, I'm like, oh, that was awesome. That was just awesome to just go have a blast. Right.
Did you feel guilty at having fun? Was that ever a thing where you're like, I shouldn't be having fun right now?
I didn't this night. I didn't. I have had that before. Yep. I have actually. It's a great question. Thank you for putting me on the spot there. It's a great question. I did because, and there's still times where, like, it's not perfect. Life is not perfect by any means. It might look like it, but God knows it's not. but there are times where it's like, I just want to go away and have fun and do something, but you got all this stuff going on here, some pretty serious heavy stuff. But the one way we've learned, like, we have to stay connected is we have to schedule time with each other. Like my spouse Brad and I, we have to schedule time with each other. We've got to do things like that because it just doesn't happen automatically. It doesn't. You know what happens automatically? Getting groceries, doing laundry, like that.
Yeah.
That is the stuff that you do every day in and day out. Scheduling fun and making time for it, you have to schedule it. You've got to schedule it in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then eventually it starts to. But yeah, I'm learning to feel less and less guilty for it. And if I'm not here to look at half of the mess and stuff that's here, then it's not really a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's only when I look at it. My mom said that once she's looking down, she goes, your floor really needs to be, Mom. Like, I'm like, Mom, if it really bothers you, the vacuum's over there. It really does not bother me anymore. I just learned, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Love her dearly. If she listens to that, it was not anything bad. Yeah. So I want 2 quick questions for you, but where can people connect with you? So somebody who wants to get their shit together and wants to do something more with their life, I would highly recommend you as a coach. Where can they reach you?
If you just go to jennagoodhand.com, that will redirect you to any other thing that I do. So just jennagoodhand.com. I do have a variety of stuff on YouTube that kind of speaks to different stuff. Yeah, that's the
easiest. Yeah. I've seen a lot. She does put a lot of great YouTube videos too. So I love the content there. So for somebody who's looking to take in some more information. So 2 questions I want to ask you to wrap up. Yeah. And you might have already answered them, but what message would you go back and tell your younger self? It can be any age younger self.
That's really hard.
I know.
I want it to be like real.
Yep. So go with your first gut feeling, and it can be, like I said, any age.
Like, I think it's like, just trust yourself. It's going to be okay. Like, yeah. I think for me, I think a lot of people who've been through things and realize the gifts of it, they don't want to change anything. Like, even though lots of those things are, traumatic to think about and refeel and things like that, I needed those. And I think that, you know what, maybe what I would say is, this goes to a conversation you and I were having before this started.
Yes.
I had this conversation with a client last night. In the moment when you're feeling those hard feelings, write them down, put them somewhere, because it's so hard later on to remember exactly how you felt. And when I talk to people who've been through things, there's this, positive glow around it, because they can't help it. They see it now as a blessing, and you can't get the rawness of what it was. And so this woman last night, she's a coach, she's struggling with her first blog and blah, blah, blah. And I said, write about that. A year from now, you will be in such a better place and you won't remember the struggle, but to the people struggling, that is so valuable. So I would tell my younger self, don't rip up those things you wrote. Don't scratch through them. Like, I have, some pieces of a journal that were,
don't censor them, right? Don't overthink them. Just do them. Yeah.
Keep your process in writing so that later you can return to it, because it is a gift to somebody else. You get the gift out of it moving through it, but for someone to see you, Marsha, today and how you're living your life, and then to know what one point of your life was like, that is a testament to, okay, that's a testimonial for you. Like, you managed to get from here to here, and this is the proof. Instead of you just saying, one time I thought a little bit different and I'm so great now, you can be like, here is the shitty pile. Look at this shitty pile.
How big it is.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what I would do that. I would have kept more documentation.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Actually, I would have liked to have done the same thing. I love that. Yeah. What lesson in life are you most grateful for? Last question.
Yeah, I think the lesson of self-love, really, really trusting that, I think trusting that I'm a good person, trusting that sometimes I do things that other people don't understand. Sometimes I've, made choices that have hurt people because they want something for me or for us that I don't. So I think listening to yourself, what was the question? A lesson. Okay.
Yes. Your lesson in life you're most grateful for.
Yeah. Harnessing and really connecting to my intuition. My gut.
Nice.
Gut will save you every time. Head and heart will confuse you and misdirect you. Gut has the answer. Every time I've listened to my gut, even if I've silenced it, the gut is always right.
Mm-hmm. And the gut is almost always the very first one you hear, right? Like it's the first, like it's that first. I usually say, like, if I'm not excited by something, then I'm like, we were just talking about a decision that took me 2 weeks to say no to, when I knew in the first 2 minutes it was a no. I knew it was a no, but I just couldn't. I'm like, I didn't want to turn it down, did all these things.
Yeah, your head gets involved.
Your head got involved. And when I finally said no, honestly, I swear to God, my inner side laughed at myself and went, I told you 2 weeks ago it was no. I told you. You didn't listen. So I think that intuition is a great thing.
Awesome.
Oh, well, seriously, Jenna, it has been a blast having you here today. And
I love talking to you.
I love that we got this last hour together, and I'm sure our listeners will have some values in it as well. So thank you so much for connecting. And I know that we will definitely be connecting in some way, shape, or form in the future on some projects.
Great. Thank you, Marcia. All the best with everything.
You are welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for another episode of Own Your Choices, Own Your Life. And until next time, go out and have an amazing day. Thank you.